I wanted to do a follow-up video on the one I made about Spotify and how, with the addition of AI generated artists, everyone needs to be made aware of the changing landscape out there and what you should probably be doing in order to get yourself out there and your music out there instead of what you may have thought was okay prior to the addition of all these AI generated artists, basically completely diluting and saturating the pool. Now, there's a this has been happening for a long time, but in my opinion, it's sort of coming to a head now as AI keeps getting, like, better and better, and more people have access to it, and also, companies are getting very brazen and bold now to attempt to really sorta find where the lines are gonna be drawn. Like, things are happening. So, let me reply to some of your comments, and then we can kinda discuss, the point, which was I didn't really discuss an alternative last time in my other video of what you should do instead. And that's kind of what I want to focus on in this video. So here's one of your comments. Somebody wrote, "What's the alternative? CD baby? Okay, what else?" So my reply was, in my opinion, the best alternative is to not bury your music into a sea of other music. Sell direct to anyone who will buy it. Keep all the money instead of pennies. Create an experience and a break from meaningless passive listening by giving them something they can hold in their hands. Do the opposite of feed the beast just to get back scraps or worse. Now, what's worse than scraps? That would be them stealing your ideas and repurposing them for use in other AI songs. That would be worse than getting paid scraps. And that's basically what you're agreeing to when you put your music out on a service like Spotify, for example. If you were to look up what you get paid per stream, it breaks down it like you'll get a result because, with the way AI and Google works today, you just type that in, it'll tell you like something really low. It's fractions of a penny. But that number that they're telling you is totally nonsense. And it's whatever you see is way, way, way worse than that because that doesn't take into account this rapidly changing landscape that's in front of us, which means how quick you think a computer can create thousands and thousands of songs for a fake band or for thousands of fake bands. It can create them extremely fast, faster than any human can create them. And as a result, you get paid out of the total. You get paid based on how many people stream your stuff compared to how many people stream all the rest of the stuff on Spotify. That's what you're up against. So the more they fill this pool up to make it where now it's not 1,000,000 songs, I'm just making up a number. Now it's 20,000,000,000 songs because they just decide to saturate it with these fake artists. Well, now your percentage goes from the fractions of a penny to microscopic fractions of pennies. That's what it goes to. And it doesn't take a long time for this to happen. That's why whatever you see, like I think somebody wrote as another comment, they wrote something about I think one let me find this other comment. It was how here we go. They wrote apparently buying an album is the equivalent of 8,000 plays on Spotify. That's only according to some math that you think is right now. But like I said, it's not correct now because it's going to keep getting more and more saturated and diluted with these fake artists, which means your percentage, no matter what, if it stayed the same or growed at some steady rate, you're not going to be able to compete with all the stuff being added to it. So no matter what, this number completely changes. Like, I don't know what that even is based on, but let's say you make a vinyl record, let's just say you don't buy a ton of them, so it costs you a lot to make. Maybe it costs you $10 to make it per album, let's say. But you decide to sell it for 15 or something like that, 20. So you make $10 on each album. My idea is you should sell it direct to whoever. So in other words, it's very easy to create your own store or, ship out your own albums. It's very easy to do that. The trick is creating the buzz for people to want to buy your album. And in my opinion, it's about finding the people who really want a real experience. Now, what I mean by real experience, I mean it's a different experience to hold a piece of artwork in your hand, an album in your hand, to open it up, to have a booklet, to have a sleeve, like whatever, like to have the credits. It's completely different to see something and to hold it and to feel it. And it also separates you from passive listeners and passive listening. People who want to just, you know, hit a button on their phone while they're doing something else and they're not really even listening. I venture to say you don't even care about people who are going to do that. Like, that shouldn't be important to you to get a couple pennies for the ability for somebody to conveniently stream your stuff. In my opinion, it's worthless anyway because there's no investment there. Whereas if you break people from this cycle of doing that and make them have to not like if like have to literally open up a turntable and put a record on that has no computer attached to it. You hit play, you're in a completely separate experience. Now you're totally connected with something that has nothing to do with a computer screen. You're completely connected with how for however long they can listen and sit there. And what I'm saying is that as an idea, that's like an event. It could be a 30-minute event and they don't have to leave the comfort of their house to do it. But the point is that's like diving in and watching a movie or something. Like that's getting deep. And that could create somebody who will listen to not only the first song you do, but the second or the third. They want to hear what's next because they're invested, because they spent a little bit of money, because they thought you were worth spending the money on. Now, how to create that is different for every artist. And really, it comes down to how creative can you be with how you can market yourself. And that's where social media comes in very, very, very handy because it doesn't cost anything to keep putting essentially business cards of who you are out there by making videos or content in some way to get people interested in who you are. Once that happens, they may be interested in listening to your album, buying your album, listening to whatever. It also brings back the idea of more than one song at a time. It takes it out of this single mindset and puts it into, more of the concept albums that we used to love. You know how many people, myself included, listen to Dark Side of the Moon from front to back hundreds of times? And those were experiences. And my point is, if we create an environment where that is the only way someone can listen to your stuff, in my opinion, you're making your stuff more valuable and more special anyway. And it's also, you're getting the people you want to listen to your stuff to listen to it, because the ones who just want to passively consume it, like I said, why are you so concerned with getting a couple fractions of pennies that are only going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller? Talk about scraps. It's the scraps of the scraps. Why are you concerned with that? In my opinion, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, well, that's the only way that, my stuff can catch fire overnight or something. Like, I don't think you should even be thinking that way. That's not the kind of catch fire that actually means anything anyway. That's here today, gone tomorrow type of stuff. Whereas if you get a smaller amount of people to actually think that they want to hear what you have to offer, and the only way they could do it is to buy the vinyl, the cassette, the CD, to invest in some crazy weird way that then they gotta put effort into, consuming it. I'm telling you, it's gonna create a whole different thing. Buddy of mine who I met from the channel actually, who's in Japan, sent me an album to listen to, and I am totally invested in the album. It hasn't left my CD player, and I basically I have a CD, I have artwork, I have an experience, which is all sort of what leads me down this path. It doesn't matter to me that most people wanna just have the convenience of listening on Spotify. I know what they do. They put it on when they're brushing their teeth, they could barely hear it, they turn it off, they walk away. It means nothing. They care not. They care not. So, I don't want that. I don't even care about that. I don't want that passive nonsense listening while they're doing homework or whatever. Like, I don't want that. Get out of here with that. I want the person who's gonna really care about it, the way I used to care when I listened to, like, Are You Experienced? And I went and flipped through the book, and I'm, just checking out everything I can while I play the album from front to back while I'm doing nothing else. That's what I want. I want the people that do that to hear my stuff, to care about my stuff. That's what I want. I don't want the Spotify people. Now, what else? We got somebody else wrote, the casual music listener doesn't care who makes the music, as long as they can dance to it or it makes them feel like their own feelings are valid. This is from Jack the Rabbit Music. I thought this was a good comment, so I want to share it with you. The underground scene will make a comeback, but only for the diehard fans of real human artistic creativity. It's like the chemistry experiments most people eat today versus farming. They make a good comparison here where they say a lot of the population doesn't care that their food is filled with synthetic chemicals and dyes, and that directly affects their health at a cellular level. Music being artificially processed isn't going to bother them. Shop at the local farmers market of music, in parentheses, and not on these streaming services. Get to know your farmer, artist, in parentheses. And it makes total sense if that's important to you. So listen to that. Shop at the local farmers market of music, your local wherever. It could be just directly from the artist these days, which in my opinion is the answer, since there really aren't like stores that will sell vinyl and CDs, or at least not many of them. There's probably still some, few and far between, but buying direct from an artist is totally possible today. It's very easy to create your own store. There's tons of platforms that will allow for that. But, get to know your farmer, the artist, if that's important to you. It makes total sense. There's plenty of people who just want to go to whatever's the most convenient and shop at the place that's poisoning them. It makes perfect sense. But the ones that want to go deeper and care about their health don't do that. The ones that want to go deeper and care about the music they're consuming, the things that really make them that give them emotions. Like what kind of emotions you want to feel? You want to feel convenient, nonsense, ridiculous, garbage emotions that are fed to you from these, literally, that are pushed to you because the record labels get a break from companies like Spotify because they sign deals with them early on to be able to put out music and like get the ideal placement for music on playlists and different things. Like you want that stuff fed to you, the stuff that you don't want to consume. That's the stuff that you will find very easily. You want that. You want these fake artists that are just regerminated concoctions of nonsense twisted together from everything you've ever heard before, all stolen, by the way, because they didn't have the right to do that, to learn on all this stuff. Is that what you want? Or do you really care about what you ingest into your brain? What do you want to feed your internal creativity? Do you want it to be the spectacular works from some people out there who you find valuable because you decide I want to hear what this person's got to say or do, or let's hear what they're doing. This band sounds cool. That's interesting. I'd love to check that out. You choose it and then you invest in it. Or do you want to get fed this nonsense that's poisoning you? Either way. Right, so I really like that comment. Jay Bauer Project wrote, the unfortunate truth with this story of the AI ban on Spotify is that all the attention around it has only increased their popularity. More people are streaming their music now because of the attention given in these videos and news articles. I get it. There's no other way to spread the word, but man, we are making them more money in the process. Laugh out loud. They really got us here. And my reply to that is this has been happening for a long, long time. The more we stay totally quiet about it, and the more like musicians don't talk to other musicians about things like this, like what do you think you gain by having the ability for people to find your stuff conveniently, but not care about it at all because of all the passive listening that goes on these things, not get pushed at all because they only push the stuff they get kickbacks on, they get paid their own money back to them. Like they're just taking money from the pot that should go to other people and giving it back to themselves. Why do you want to contribute to that? Why do you want to give your stuff to something that could then also, they just train and learn on your stuff? You're putting your stuff into a pool that everybody's going to train their AIs and stuff on also. So that's, in my opinion, the thing that's worse. But all this stuff, I basically wrote, This is the tip of the iceberg. It only gets way worse from here with way, way, way more fake artists that haven't even been discussed yet. So this one band that we're talking about doesn't matter. The truth is, I can't stand by while all these musicians get robbed right in front of me and not talk about the fact that once it's diluted and diluted and diluted, what you think you're even getting, you're never getting none of that. And I don't get what you think it is. You think it's what? Let's say you agree to get paid nothing because you want to be on it, but it's what? Free publicity? Publicity for people who aren't going to care anyway, for total passive listening. Who wants that? You want active listening. You want people to care about what they're hearing so that they give it a chance. Because if you let them listen to 5 seconds and skip to the next song in 5 seconds, they don't get to hear what you've done anyway. They put no value on the thought process. You can't have a song that doesn't have some sort of arc, that doesn't start somewhere and build into something else and then go somewhere else. You can't have that. All you have is these tiny, ridiculous moments where you need somebody to be interested every 3 seconds. And you want those people who need that? No, you want the people with a little bit of patience. You want the people who don't want to go to the kiddie park and ride the nonsense rides that do nothing. No emotional nothing. You don't want those people. Let them go to the kiddie park. Let them be on those ridiculous rides, separate from everybody else. And you want the people who actually want a thrill, a real experience. Those are the people. It's not the same people. So, in my opinion, that's where we're at. Sell directly to people who want to have an actual experience with your music instead of a passive one that means nothing in the long run. And also, while you're at it, you get to keep all the money you make from every sale instead of pennies. So you can actually price things out like, all right, it costs us whatever to do this. All we need to do is sell this many to break even. And you have to invest in yourself a little bit. Like, sure, we all know it costs fractions of nothing to put your stuff on these services, no risk. But if you think you have something to offer people, take a little bit of a risk to invest in putting together a product that you can sell. It's not the craziest thing in the world to think this way. This is how everybody used to do it before. So I think there's a need for a return to realism. And in my opinion, this is the way to do it. So anyway, I'll leave it there. But questions, comments, answers, throw it in there. I'm curious what you guys have to say. I know everybody's going to be split on this. I'm very curious to hear your opinions. So, Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios, you guys got this. Take it easy.